Hello everyone, my name is Albert, I'm an MTT regular with average buy-in of $70, and today we're gonna talk about analyzing stats when you are open raiser in position. This video is brought to you by HisHands and Statname projects in collaboration with PokerPopUP. Okay, what's actually important, really important for us in a situation when we raised in position and we get a call from out of position player, let's say a big blind. First of all, we want to know how sticky he is. How much does he fight for every pot? And how do we know that our opponent is actually sticky? He doesn't really like to fold. Well, we can see it in his stats. For example, if he has a low fold to Cbet percentage. Well, let's say, I don't know, 35, 45, 45 fold to Cbet by street. Or if he rarely wins when he calls a river bet. There's a stat for that. High went to showdown also signals that player doesn't really like to fold post-flop. Or high went to showdown in combination with a low win percentage against a river bet, after calling a river bet. Or finally we can open his graph and check his red line. If his red line is at 0 or around 0, we can just stop all of our bluffing against this guy. Just never bluff against him. Because with all those stats, with all this information, we can clearly see that this is a guy who doesn't really like to fold, who really loves bluff catching, which definitely means that he overcalls, and against a guy who overcalls, our bluffs are not profitable. So yeah, against such a sticky opponent, we can just avoid bluffing at all. And it is actually a very thoughtful and very reasonable adjustment to such an opponent. And let us not go too deep into different stats. Let's just focus on his opponent's fold to Cbet. If his fold to Cbet is really low, it means that he's a sticky guy. He doesn't really like to fold, right? I mean, of course, we want to take as much stats, as much information in consideration as possible. But let's go over a fold to Cbet specifically. If villain has a really high fold to Cbet stats, then we can play really aggressively. We can even be aggressive to the point where we don't care about our cards at all. We just bet 3 streets knowing that he folds enough for it to be profitable. We don't even need to look at our whole cards. Also, a very important stat is a check raise. It correlates with fold to Cbet percentage as well. We can see guys who check raise like 5% of the flop or like 25%, and those are extremes basically, but you can face guys like this. And the idea is very simple. If he check raises a lot, it means that he has a lot of bluffs in his check raising range. And if he has a low check raise percentage, then well, probably he has no bluffs at all in his check raising range. And the adjustment is clear. Against a high check raise we want to defend more, against low check raise we mostly fold. But I want to go over some additional stats which are also very important. I mean, we don't only want to look at his check raising stats. This is not enough to see the whole picture. We also want to take a look at how he plays after we call his check raise. We really want to know how often he bets after a check raise and how often he check folds after a check raise. And if he, for example, c-bets not a lot, like less than 50% after a check raise, and check folds a lot, more than 50%, it means that we can float really wide, almost up to any 2 cards, with an idea of bluffing against a check on the following street. But if he really bets a lot after a check raise, like more than 55 or even 60%, then of course we want to adjust our strategy. Well, basically, if he check raises and then bets a lot on the following street, we want to overfold against his check raise in the first place. We don't want to wait for him to bet again. So yeah, check his fold to Cbet stats, his check raise stats, and how he plays after the check raise. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck at the tables. Bye.